Some call them mythologies, others call them world religions. Here we call them all the same thing. Theologies, for what makes one belief a religion and another a mythology. Grab your coffee or tea and settle in as we learn a little bit about today's Theology Thursday topic. Today we will be discussing Odin, the All-Father. Odin is one of the most complex and enigmatic characters in Norse mythology, and perhaps in all of world literature. He's the ruler of the Aesir tribe of deities, yet he often ventures far from their kingdom, Asgard, on long, solitary wanderings throughout the cosmos on purely self-interested quests. He's a relentless seeker after and giver of wisdom, but he has little regard for communal values such as justice, fairness, or respect for law and convention. He's the divine patron of rulers and of outlaws. He's a war god, but also a poetry god, and he has prominent effeminate qualities that would have brought unspeakable shame to any historical Viking warrior. He's worshipped by those in search of prestige, honor, and nobility, yet he's often cursed for being a fickle trickster. In modern popular culture, Odin is often portrayed as being an eminently honorable ruler and battlefield commander, not to mention impossibly muscular, but to the ancient Norse, he was nothing of the sort. In contrast to more straightforwardly noble war gods such as Tyr or Thor, Odin incites otherwise peaceful people to strife with what, to modern tastes, is a downright sinister glee. In keeping with his associations with sovereignty, Odin doesn't generally concern himself with average warriors, preferring instead to lavish his blessings only on those whom he deems to be worthy of them. He maintains particularly close affiliations with the berserkers and other warrior shamans whose fighting techniques and associated spiritual practices center around achieving a state of ecstatic unification with certain ferocious totem animals, usually wolves or bears, and, by extension, with Odin himself, the master of such beasts. One of the greatest differences between monotheistic theologies and polytheistic theologies is that, in the former, God is generally all-knowing, all-powerful, all-loving, etc. Polytheistic gods are none of these things. Like any human, tree, or hawk, they are limited by their particularity. For Odin, any kind of limitation is something to be overcome by any means necessary, and his actions are carried out within the context of a relentless and ruthless quest for more wisdom, more knowledge, and more power, usually of a magical sort. One of the most striking attributes of his appearance is his single, piercing eye. His other eye socket is empty. The eye it once held was sacrificed for wisdom. Along with Freyja, he's one of the two greatest practitioners of shamanism amongst the gods. His shamanic spirit journeys are well documented. Odin, like shamans all over the world, is accompanied by many familiar spirits, most notably the ravens Hugin and Munin, the wolves Jerry and Freki, and the Valkyries. The shaman must typically undergo a ritual death and rebirth to acquire his or her powers, and Odin underwent exactly such an ordeal when he discovered the runes. The other main form of Germanic shamanism is contained within the magical tradition known as Cedar, of which Odin and Freyja are the foremost divine practitioners. In traditional Germanic society, for a man to engage in Cedar was effectively to forsake the male gender role, which brought considerable scorn upon any male who chose to take up this path. As the sagas show, this didn't stop some men from practicing Cedar anyway. However, even Odin wasn't exempt from such charges of unmanliness, and was taunted for adopting the feminine traits and tasks that form part of the backbone of Cedar. Saxo, in the passage on Odin's exile, alluded to above, relates that by his stage tricks and his assumption of a woman's work he had brought the foulest scandal on the name of the gods. The All-Father. One of Odin's countless names is All-Father, Old Norse Alfair, because, according to Snorri Sturluson, he is the father of all of the gods. And Odin is listed as the divine ancestor of countless families from all over northern Europe. He's simultaneously an Aesir god, a Vanir god. The Vanir god Otter is only an extension or transposition of Odin, and a giant. His mother is Bestla, one of the first frost giants. One Old Norse poem even identifies him with Ond, the breath of life. The Norse saw their gods as the vital forces that held the cosmos together. As the All-Father, Odin was the vital force of vital forces, the breath of life, or something almost akin to Nietzsche's will to power. It's surely no accident that Odin played a greater role than any other god in the creation of the world. Without his vivifying ecstasy, and the enchantment, insight, and clarity that it brings, life, and in particular a life worth living, would be impossible.